Next, I want to talk about something that's a little bit dark. It concerns a case of, and I kid you not, 2,411 dead babies. On the 3rd of September 2019, a prolific American abortionist called Dr. Ulrich Klopfer died. He was 79 at the time. He actually had begun practicing way back in 1973, which was a few months after the Roe versus Wade court decision in the US, which effectively legalized abortion right across the country. And by 1993, he was performing 3,500 abortions every year. And over the span of his 40-year career, he's believed to have performed about 50,000 abortions. And he gained the attention of pro-life advocates some time ago when an article was actually published in the Chicago Sun-Times detailing how that he and another abortionist in the clinics that he was working in would race each other to see who could perform the most abortions in a single day. And one of the doctors actually kept a tally and permanent marker on his leg in order to keep up with each other, which Anyway, you can imagine why he achieved the notoriety that he did during his life and why pro-life demonstrators continue to demonstrate outside his clinics and do other things like that. And in 2010, it came to light that he performed an abortion on a 10-year-old girl who had been abused by her uncle, and he didn't report it. In 2013, he faced criminal charges for failing to report the statutory rape of a 13-year-old under similar circumstances. But these were the tip of the iceberg. He faced malpractice charges due to a patient requiring emergency treatments for incomplete, or many patients requiring emergency treatments for incomplete abortions, thousands of consumer complaints against his practice, dozens of serious violations in his clinics, and ultimately his medical license was suspended in 2016. And now these are all the things that were just known about. You can be reasonably sure that when there's lots of this coming to the surface and being seen, there's more under the surface. But the worst was yet to come. I mentioned that number 2,411. That is the number of dead babies that were found in his home after he died. His family discovered that he had hoarded 2,411 fetuses in sealed plastic bags stacked in boxes in his garage. Now, on the 13th of February, a funeral service, which was attended by 200 people, was held at the South Lawn Cemetery in South Bend, Indiana, for those children. They were all given names by pro-life advocates, and they were given a dignified burial. And there were some really nice speeches. If you want to see that funeral service, you can look it up. I think the Susan B. Anthony List Facebook page will have it on there. It's a bit unusual, but that's the group. And there is a live stream of that, which is still available, or it was live at the time. Why do I tell you this dreadful story? I mean, it's great what the pro-life advocates did, but to see this sort of thing is just, ugh. It's gross. It's awful. I tell this story because it hasn't been reported in many places. It hasn't been reported in many places because it's too confronting. It hurts the abortion narrative. It's the latest in a series of cases which demonstrate that something is attracting wicked and demented individuals to be abortionists and into the abortion industry. And that's true. I mean, the worst such case was that of Dr. Kermit Gosnell, who was found guilty of 237 crimes in May 2013, and he received 3 life sentences. And he's a guy, Gosnell, who regularly delivered live babies and murdered them by sticking scissors into their necks. Stories of babies who are alive outside the womb for up to 20 minutes before being murdered, a baby born in a toilet before being grabbed and killed with scissors. 4 of his former employees, not just him, but 4 of his former employees also pleaded guilty to murder in the course of those trials. His story is an abominable one, and of course they found all sorts of preserved fetuses in jars and all this kind of stuff in relation to his practice. But also there's the recent story of the undercover investigation by a guy called David Daleiden for the Center for Medical Progress. And if you want to find more out about that, I've covered that case twice in the past. So search David Daleiden in YouTube, in our YouTube channel, and you'll find that coverage. But long story short, David Daleiden, through some heroic undercover journalism work, exposed the widespread normalized trade in body parts of aborted babies. Hearts harvested while still beating and sold to biotech companies. Whole heads, whole bodies, specimens that can only be obtained through delivering live babies and then killing them. And all this going on in relation to America's largest and most prolific abortion company provider, Planned Parenthood. This is widespread. This is normal. There was a trial of David Daleiden, who, by the way, was taken to court by the California Attorney General, can you believe, and has actually been convicted of offences for doing this undercover journalism. Not the abortionists who are involved in all these atrocities, who are trading in actual human organs, live, beating hearts and baby body parts and fetuses. Not them. No, the person who exposed it. This is mainstream over there. Now, there are people who say, well, it's the same here. Don't have evidence of that. But hey, this industry attracts this kind of stuff. What does it all mean? Do you know the abortion issue comes down to one question, and it comes down to one question only. Is abortion the taking of a life? Or is it quite meaningless? Is it just some kind of inconsequential medical procedure that's only reasonably invasive and not that important? Or is it actually the taking of a life? Because if it is the taking of a life, and remember, a heart beats at 4 weeks. Remember that unborn children respond to touch and to feeling and all the rest of it. Remember that there's all sorts of things going on here. It's separate DNA. It's got its own genetic blueprint. If it is taking of a life, then it is evil. If it is, then any excuse that someone might employ to justify an abortion becomes invalid, because the only proper answer is, when it's death, when it's killing, the only proper answer is there must be a better way. Surely there is a better way. If a child is going to be disabled, so do we kill disabled children? Surely there must be a better way. The mother might have been raped, so do we kill an innocent third party of a terrible crime? There must be a better way. There must be some other option. The family might be very poor. So now do we think that people who are poor are better off not existing, not living at all? Surely there must be a better way. See, this becomes the overarching thing. Is it the taking of a life? If it is, then there's a better solution. There has to be, because we don't kill people. That's a bit like the domestic violence instance I mentioned earlier. There is no excuse for killing. None. There is no mitigating circumstance. It is wrong. But of course we know that those reasons only account for a tiny minority of abortions. Mostly the reason is it would be inconvenient. And we know there is a better option. There is a better way. The whole moral reply to the question of abortion rests on that simple issue: is this a life? Once you answer that, every reason, every protest, every excuse under the sun is answered. But there's something else. If we know that this is a life, then we know that it's a terrible crime to take the life. And we know that the organised taking of such lives must be a very dark and evil thing. And that in the provision of mass abortions, there must be great wickedness. And here's the thing: evil is contagious. Evil does spread. Evil is malignant. It grows. It doesn't stay still. And it does corrupt more and more. And it has that capability. And evil attracts evil. Bad deeds attract bad people. Bad people attract other bad people who do more bad deeds. It has its own gravity. And if abortion is therefore evil, you can expect that it will also be a factory of evils. It will produce more. And guess what? As we have just seen, the evidence continues to mount up that that is exactly what it is: a factory of further evil. Never doubt, if you do ever doubt, I should say, that evil is real, if you doubt that evil is a living personal force, it has power, that it does these things, that it does consume, it is malignant, it does have that energy, if you doubt, that Satan is real, look no further than a dark issue like abortion, and you see that that is true. Very few things in our world manufacture as much darkness as this. Very few things in our world are responsible for so much pain, so much shame, so much regret, so much anguish as this. Very few things find their manifestation in people's darkest times like this does. It is a nest of wickedness. And I say this partly in the hope that if someone is about to go down this dark road, that you will be caused to stop and prevented from walking into the dark. Because what's the question? Is this taking a life? If the answer is yes, then there must be a better way. The answer to every circumstance comes out of that. And the better way is exactly what we said at the Walk for Life in Adelaide the other day. It is to love them both, mother and child. And there are so many people in Australia, in this community, in pregnancy support centres, in churches all over the place, who will provide all the help in the world to achieve that and to walk down that pathway of a better way. But why do I say this? Because we need to stop this great evil of abortion. We must do it. And we must do it in the pro-life generation, as we keep saying. Great progress in other countries. There's going to be progress here, and that's why ACL is running a day of action in the month of March, where in every single state and territory, people are going to have the opportunity to go out into their communities with the truth that abortion takes a human life, and they're going to put that in letterboxes in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of homes in one day. And if you're near one of those days of actions, you're going to get an email, and it's going to invite you to be a part of it. If you're not near one of them and you don't get an email, I ask you to pray for that day, but also understand that this movement is going to grow. And we are going to have an evergreen, continual grassroots activist movement which goes out into the community to shine light in dark places, to convince our neighbours and our communities and electorates around this country of the truth, and to change hearts and minds, and therefore to send an important policy message to Canberra, and to change voters' intentions at elections and get movement on these dark issues of our day, which look so hopeless. And even as I was doing this segment, I was sitting there thinking, this is heavy. We can make change. When people see this, people will respond. And so be ready for that day of action. Or if it doesn't come to a place near you this time, be ready for when it does, because it will. We're going to create the biggest grassroots activist movement this country's ever seen. And it's going to go on continually, not just during election cycles, because we're changing people's minds.